Today I just want to make a final few comments regarding your final project for this course in Finance and Development at Marymount University. Over the course of the entire semester, you've been reading a lot and discussing the concepts of budgets and development programs. Your final project is the culminating work that puts together all of the pieces. It has two major components, the budgetary component and the institutional advancement component. Now, let me first talk about the budget. The budget has several pages of facts and figures. But the most important part of that, as you start to prepare it, is that cover page which talks about your institution, that talks about your vision for the school and what you're trying to accomplish. Because everything you do in your budget, all of the expenses that you make during the course of a year and over the course of the 5-year budget reflect your vision for the school. That includes compensation. That includes capital. That includes programmatic changes. So before you start the budget, you need to have a clear picture of what you want your school to be. Today, tomorrow, and at the end of 5 years. Once you have clearly written that statement, that narrative, that is the framework upon which your budget will be designed, the numbers then should flow. You're being asked to put together a budget as you would if you were in any school in the United States today. Your particular budget is a little bit different because it involves being in a Catholic school. But you're asked to look at, again, salaries, teachers. How many teachers do you need? How many administrators? What support staff? What about your janitorial staff? What other support do you need? What about your utility bills? All of those things are integral parts of your budget. You also need to determine your tuition. What is your tuition based on? Are you increasing the tuition each year by 1% of 2 or 3%? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? Your narrative should clearly spell out what you're trying to do with your compensation program and what your expectations are for increases in tuition and increases in all other expenditures. The one thing I would strongly encourage you to do is make sure that your budget does not have a deficit. Now, some of you will say, but I'm in a school where we do have a deficit. If you have a deficit, you must clearly spell out where you're going to get the money to pay that deficit. Assuming that someone else is going to pay it isn't going to float. You need to design a budget that will work. Too often today, people design budgets and then just simply assume that somehow, somewhere along the line, someone will come out of the woodwork and pay the deficit. Is the parish or the diocese going to bail the school out? That shouldn't be the case. You, as the head administrator, need to design a program that will make the school financially viable. That's important. That's critical. Now, the second half of the final project involves an advancement plan. How are you going to raise money to pay for capital expenses and to meet your financial goals that can't be met simply through tuition? How are you going to do that? That's really important. I cannot emphasize enough that your plan for institutional advancement, again, often called development, is comprehensive. That it is a multifaceted plan That includes personal solicitation. That includes direct mail. That includes research on your donors. And you need to design a time frame. Also, it is critical that you build in methods of evaluating the effectiveness. That same thing should happen as you describe your budget in the narrative. How will you evaluate the effectiveness of your budget? What happens if you have a major snowfall and it cost you $40,000 to clean your parking lots that you didn't budget for in your initial plan? How will you deal with that? I'd also strongly suggest that you try to build in some kind of, even if it's a small, contingency program. Don't also forget that you have, and you learned about this earlier in the semester, depreciation. How do you fund depreciation? Why do we fund depreciation? Very simple. Because everything in your building will get old. Just like all of us, we get old. And we get replaced. Administrators, when they finish their job as being the principal, someone else comes in and replaces them. That same thing happens whether it's computers or desks or the boilers or the roof. What do? We set aside money, which is really what depreciation is, to cover the cost of those things in future years. That's an important concept. So as you put together your final project, make sure that if anyone looked at that plan, they could see what you're trying to do, what your vision for your institution is, and how you were going to afford making that vision a reality. And it's through budgets, and it's through an institutional advancement program that allows you to meet the needs of your students, not just today, but at the end of a 5-year period. I often say principals should get 5 years for their initial contract. If the school's the same at the end of 5 years as it was the day the person started the job as principal, they probably shouldn't be principal anymore. Why? Because your job as the leader of the institution is to make it better, not simply just to tread water. We could probably get computers to do that. Your job as the head of the school is to be much more. And in our particular case, you're the leader of a Catholic school. As Catholic schools across the United States decline in numbers, it is up to you, the next generation of leaders in this country, to make sure that our Catholic schools survive into the future. It can only be done if you plan and if you have a clear vision and you work every day to make sure that that vision becomes a reality. And it also means that you must involve others. You cannot do it alone. Jesus didn't do it alone. He decided that he needed 12 disciples to go out and spread the word. Think of that as you do your budget and your institutional advancement plan. I appreciate all your hard work during the course of this semester. I look forward to seeing you this summer. For those of you that are taking the school leadership and evaluation course, I look forward to seeing you firsthand. And we can, if you want, carry on the discussions that we've had throughout this semester. I appreciate it. I wish you a very blessed Easter and hope that this semester has proven to be helpful in your journey to become the best administrator you can possibly be, not just today, but in the years to come. I appreciate it, and God bless.